Okay, we're going to start by importing our character model. So go to File, Import FBX Model, select your file, follow the steps to enter the rig editor. Here you don't need to make any changes, so select Add Rig Elements. And then we want to stay in rig edit mode, so select Continue Editing. Next, we want to import our weapon. Go to File, Import FBX Model, select your weapon. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is parent our weapon armature to the weapon bone in our character. So find the weapon bone on your character, go to the root of your weapon and drag it left click into weapon R or whatever you named your weapon bone, and then go to transform, local position, 0 those values, and local rotation, 0 those values. This way our animation is driven entirely from the weapon bone, and we can exclude the weapon itself from our export from Cascadeur. This is because in my game, weapons are dynamically attached to the character at runtime. So I need the animation to be driven by just that weapon bone on the character. So to export just the character animation, not your weapon, you can select all of your weapon transforms and joints, and then go under FBX export and deselect is exported, and do the same for the mesh. Deselect is exported. Okay, now we can set up the rig element for the weapon. Select the weapon bone, and then control select the last bone in your weapon. Go to the rig editor on the left and set up the additional point first. We want this to be orthogonal to the main vector of our weapon, from the weapon bone to the last bone in the weapon. So we'll select X and then local, and then click add. Now we have our rig element for our weapon. Left click to select, and you can go to physics settings, set a mass for your weapon, and you can select the rig elements for your character to get an idea of what their mass is and what the weapon mass should be. We'll put 20 in for now. You can rescale the rig element, so we'll do 1010 actually. And then go to point update settings. This is important to deselect the bind with parent and select FK on frame. Okay, that sets up our rig element for the weapon. The last thing we're going to want to do is add some center of mass and root constraints. So for the center of mass, select your rig element. On the left, go to main actions, add a center of mass. And if you don't already have one on your character, double select the pelvis, go into the outliner, click the pelvis, go all the way down, shift click the last rig element, and then control click your weapon rig element to deselect it. And hit add under center of mass. And then for both your center of mass, select them both and hit add under center of mass. That creates a composite center of mass between the character and the weapon. Lastly, let's add root constraints. You'll need to do this if you want to use root motion in your game, which I do, so we'll set this up quickly. Go to the root of your character, and then shift click the pelvis rig element, and then under root constraint, click add. And for my character, I also have to do this with the root transform as well. So select that, shift select the pelvis, and then hit add under root constraint. Now we're done with the rig setup. So we'll select generate rig. Okay, now what you can do is go to joint mode, select your weapon joint, and move it so that it is more realistically in the hand of your character. That looks fine. And now if you go to AutoPose, you'll see that as you move your hand around, the weapon moves with the hand. Okay, so I've imported an animation I've done previously, and we can export this to Unreal. Go to File, Export Without Meshes, give it a name. Okay, now inside of Unreal Engine, we can right click, go to Import, select our skeleton, import all, open this up. Okay, now we have our exported animation inside of Unreal. We can visualize the weapon by going to our weapon bone in the skeleton tree. And I added some sockets here I use for my game. So I'll go to my two-hand socket, right click, add preview asset, go to the same weapon we were using inside of Cascadeur. And now you can see that it lines up exactly with what we had inside of Cascadeur. Okay, and we're done. So that's how you can create animations with weapons inside of Cascadeur and import them into Unreal in a way where the animation is driven entirely by a character bone and would work with any weapon that you want to attach to that bone and follow the same animation.